This podcast is sponsored by the Fireman Moving Company. The Fireman Moving Company is the official moving company of WKU Athletics. Not only can they be trusted to move all the coaches in and out of Western, but they can move you anywhere nationwide. The Fireman Moving Company is owned and operated by firemen and is founded by WKU alumni. If you are looking to move sometime soon, give them a call at 270-791-1755 and get yourself a free quote. Welcome to Topper Talk, your number one Western Kentucky athletics podcast. I'm your host, Stephen Moffitt, and I'm joined by co-host Tyler Bailey. Hilltopper Nation, whether it's happening on the hill or on the road, grab those red towels, stand up and cheer, because it's up next on Topper Talk. All right, and welcome back, and thank you for downloading and listening to another episode of the Topper Talk podcast. We are the official podcast of the Red Towel Trust Collective and a proud member of the College Huddle podcast community. Make sure you're following us on all of our social media platforms. Just search Topper Talk on whatever you're on, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, pretty much anything. We're there. Just search us, find us, make sure you're giving us a follow. Got Tyler here with me, man. It's been a little bit, but you ready to jump back in?
Yeah, man, I'm ready to get my feet wet once again, boy.
But before we do that, and before we even get to our Red Towel wrap up, I want to touch on, I guess, a sentimental piece for you and I, because as we're recording, it's Sunday night as we're recording, but when this episode comes out, it'll be Monday, April 14th, which will officially be our 2-year anniversary of our launch date of our first episode, following the spring game in 2023, which kind of kicked us off. And, timing wise, it's right after the spring game this year. So it's just kind of crazy, man. Time has flown by. We're well over 100 episodes now. We had the, 100th episode, I think, was back in January during basketball season. Obviously it's been a lot of fun. The listeners, the followers across all of our social medias, that's just has grown a ton. Getting to interact with fans and coaches and players, and even doing collaboration podcast with other podcast schools, not only in Conference USA but just even out of conference opponents. Man, it's been a lot of fun. Really appreciate anyone and everyone that listens and follows along, and lets us be their trusted source for WKU news, and just information in general. We really had a lot of fun doing it. Can't believe it's been 2 years already, and looking forward to obviously a couple more years. Hopefully, Tyler, what are your thoughts about it?
Yeah, I'm with you. The time has really flown by. It seriously doesn't feel like 2 years. It's crazy. A lot of things have changed in my life, between the baby and the marriage, and now we got a new puppy. And just I never thought I would have this platform to be able to talk to people, let alone people be interested in anything I have to say. But whenever we was at that basketball game this season, that guy was sitting next to us, and he said, man, I appreciate what you do. I appreciate what y'all are doing for Western. I guess that's when it really hit that, we was informing people. People are getting stuff from us. And to me, that's just crazy. And I'm incredibly appreciative of people listening to us and giving us feedback, man. It's just crazy to me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. On with the episode. The show must go on. Before we dive into the main part of the episode, talking about the transfer portal, we've got to get caught up with our Red Towel wrap up, which catches us up with all the athletic news that we've missed since we last recorded, and as always, is brought to us by Trent Bedding Company.
Don't forget your headboards, pillows, and your sheets. We got everything you need for a good night's sleep. Number one on the same check, best in Bowling Green. All right. Hey!
Twins, full, queen and king, mattresses for anything. Come and pick it out and we can bring it to your house. Have you sleeping real good before the weekend's out. Trent Bedding. It's just like a mattress store. Hey.
All right, let's jump into it. Baseball versus Liberties. the Flames got swept. Game 1, the score was 6-2. Game 2, game was 4-2, and game 3, the score was 4-3. The Tops are now 31-5 overall, and that was the 100th victory for head coach Mark Raridan.
Yeah, what more can we say about the baseball Hilltoppers that we haven't said, already this season? I mean, they're undefeated at home. I think they're like 21-0, here in Bowling Green. They've been on the road for a little while now, though. I was posting a couple weeks ago that this 9-game stretch that they were playing, that they're on the back end of now, with only one home game in that stretch, was probably the toughest part of their schedule of the year. And right now, through 8 games, they're 6-2. They lost to Vanderbilt in extra innings. That was a 12-inning game. They won 2 out of 3 versus DBU. They beat USI in that lone home game, and then they just swept Liberty. So just really impressive. They're starting to get some top 25 recognition from several polls that are out there. Hopefully Monday morning when the new polls for D1 baseball and the coaches poll come out, who knows? They might be knocking on the door of being top 25 across the board. So a lot of respect being given to our baseball team. Really impressive. We have a big test coming up on Tuesday. We play at Louisville. They're a top, I think they're number 14 as we're recording. They're close to a top 10 team in the nation. So that's going to be another good test for us to just see where we stand. Vanderbilt was number 17 when we played them, and we took them to the wire. We were right there, could have won that ball game. Unfortunately, we didn't. But man, we're rolling. Our pitching is great. We have the lowest team ERA in the entire NCAA. Jack Bennett's been, in the top 2 or 3 of lowest ERA all season. Our pitching's been outstanding. Ryan Weidman is a superstar, has been amazing, both offensively and defensively for us all season. And then Coach Raridan, you can't say enough good things about him. Second fastest coach ever to get to 100 victories. I don't know who the fastest was, but pretty impressive. I meant to look that up before we got to recording, but 100 victories in less than 3 full seasons as our head coach. I think anyone that knows him and knows where he came from JUCO wise and how much he won at that level, I think they're not surprised by his success. It kind of just feels like hopefully we can hold on to him a little bit longer. Hopefully, there's some loyalty there and he doesn't want to bounce around. Hopefully he likes Bowling Green. We've got that indoor practice facility that's being built, right beside his field that's going to also house some baseball for them for having, indoor workouts as well. So, hopefully that type of stuff helps us keep him around longer because he's just building an absolute juggernaut on the baseball field. And, I'm really proud of the baseball team, really enjoying getting to keep up with them. I think our next home series is versus MTSU next weekend. And then we have, UK comes and they play here, I think in a couple weeks. So some good home games. The weather's getting nicer finally. It's going to be in the 70s plus going forward, hopefully. And, if you're not going out and checking out the baseball toppers, man, you're missing out. They are a fun team to watch and are winning a lot of ball games. So get out and support those baseball players.
Speaking of baseball players, former WKU pitcher Michael Darrell Hicks was called up to the Angels in the Major League Baseball.
Yeah, you love to hear that news. He's a local Bowling Green kid. Stayed home, played here at Western, and been in the minor league system, and got the call up to the show. That's always awesome. That's great news, obviously for our program and for him. You love to hear pro tops getting an opportunity. So I hope he gets a chance to get on the mound and show what he can do.
Sadly, the WKU softball team, they lost the series to MTSU, but in that series, Western did break MTSU's record of 23-game home run streak.
Yeah, that game I think that was the Saturday game. Ryland threw a one-hitter, just a complete game one-hitter to break that streak. That was a tough fought series. The first game was a 1-run game, if I'm not mistaken. The second game, I think we won by 2 runs, and then that third game, lost by a walk-off home run by 1. So just a really tough series, just the way the a rivalry series with the 100 Miles of Hate should be. Unfortunately, they came out on top this time. But conference tournaments coming up in not long. We'll get another shot at them, and I like our chances. We've got a pretty good team over there on the softball field as well.
The Hilltopper Fieldhouse is having a ceremony for the final beam being raised on April 22nd. Attendees can also tour the Hardball Club and new press box.
Yeah, I had a chance recently this last week to go over when it stopped raining and flooding in Bowling Green. I drove over to Houchin Smith Stadium and just did some walking around and took some pictures of what I could see of the Hilltopper Fieldhouse. I posted all those on Twitter and Instagram. If you're not following us, you missed them. But I shared all those just to see the progress of what that building looks like right now, and it's coming along very nicely. That final beam raising on April 22nd. Anyone that shows up is going to have an opportunity if they want to sign that beam before it goes up and is installed as the final piece. And then it's also a pretty unique opportunity that anyone attending can also have a tour of the Hardball Club if you've never had a chance to go up there, and the new press box that opened this past season. Both are really great spaces for our athletics and for our football team, obviously. So is a really cool opportunity, and looking forward to being there on April 22nd.
WKU tennis player Sophia Blanco named to the Conference USA All Academic Team.
Yeah, I love to hear that. I mean, that's being the definition of a student athlete. She's a really good tennis player as well. Don't get me wrong. She's I think she is the program leader in all-time doubles wins and in all-time singles and doubles combined wins. So she's really good on the tennis court as well. But she came here to be a student and is also excelling in the classroom. So I love to hear that.
Speaking of the tennis team, they beat Alabama A&M 4-0 on Senior Day.
Yeah, that was just this past weekend as well. They got to honor our 4 seniors, the winningest senior class ever in the history of our tennis program. So that really speaks a lot to what those girls have done and contributed to this team, this program. And it was really good to send them out with the victory. And now they've got the conference tournament coming up for them as well. That will obviously be a nice test. I know FIU and MTSU are always good in tennis as well. But hey, who knows? Anybody can be anybody, and I'm here for
it. Katie Craig, Avery Klein, and Sydney Hackett named to the Conference USA All Academic Team.
Yeah, so the Lady Topper golfers also having a really solid season. Not only on the course, they've won 3 tournaments this spring. But then we've got 3 members of that team that were also all academic honorees. Same thing I said about Sophia. It's amazing, and I'm glad we get to highlight that these ladies are excelling in the classroom as well as on the course, and it's really important. I'm really happy for them. But I know, when I was in school, I wasn't making any all academic teams, and I wasn't, a Division I athlete either with those times and those requirements of schedules that they have, the workload that they have on top of their schoolwork. So definitely proud of them.
Keeping it here with the Lady Golf, the Lady Topper Golf won the Tennessee Spring Challenge Tournament. Kaylee Dwyer named Conference USA Golfer of the Week after winning the tournament.
Yeah, that was, like I mentioned earlier, that was their 3rd tournament victory of the spring, which is the first time in program history they've ever won 3 events in the spring. They've really just have been dominating the entire spring. Kaylee Dwyer getting that victory, her first ever as a Hilltopper. Katie Craig was not in the lineup for this event. She was actually at Augusta National playing in the women's amateur event over there that she got invited to several months ago. So obviously we kept up with that. Katie didn't make the cut to the final round, but she had a really awesome time. I shared a ton of posts that she had up and her mom had up. Looked like an amazing event for her. A lot of memories made. But yeah, the Lady Toppers still held it down and beat a a really good Vanderbilt team. MTSU was in that field. Tennessee was in that field. I mean, they still beat a really good field of competition, even without their number one golfer. And I think we've seen a lot of that this season. We've seen Sydney Hackett step up. Now we see Kaylee stepping up. So really excited for them. And now Conference USA Championship is right around the corner. So high hopes.
If any of y'all got any daughters that are interested in going to a volleyball camp, WKU volleyball announced their upcoming summer camps.
Yeah, those summer camps coming up. I think they were in June. I think they have a team camp and elite camp. A couple of different options for the different age groups. Depending on what you want to do. I know my daughter has gone to it the last few years, so obviously the Moffats will probably be there again. So looking forward to that. Should be a good time on the hill.
Former Hilltopper Paige Briggs was named Professional Volleyball Federation's Player of the Week.
Yeah, she wasn't just named the player of the week for her team. She was named the player of the week for the entire league, which is just, I mean, that's Paige Briggs doing Paige Briggs things. I mean, was a 4-year All-American here. Obviously has been, gone pro now, won a title last year, and is still just doing amazing things there in the Professional Volleyball League. So definitely huge congratulations to her.
WKU Volleyball announced their Travis Hudson Legacy campaign with a goal to raise $300,000 to support WKU Volleyball. That should be light work.
Yeah, I mean, very fitting. This past season we celebrated 30 years of Travis Hudson being the head coach here. I think it goes without saying the success that he's had, all the Coach of the Year awards he's won, conference titles he's won, NCAA appearances, wins in the NCAA tournament. He just had a historic run here. And I think, the support of the community and the school has continued to go up. As we've gone to games the last couple of years, the attendance is getting better and better and better. Travis Hudson keeps winning and winning and winning, reloading with a ton of talent. And I think this legacy campaign is something that, no matter how much longer Travis coaches here, which, could be 5 years, could be 20 years, I don't know, but, supporting this program and just getting behind Travis Hudson is going to mean a lot to this, not only the teams in the immediate future, but just, like it's a legacy campaign. It's, for Travis Hudson, everything he's done for this university for 30 plus years now. And really we can all help pay that forward and ensure the success of our volleyball program for years to come.
I won't say let's hope for 30 more years. WKU Basketball was announced as a participant in the Battle for Atlantis tournament this next season.
Yeah, that's a really good tournament to be in. I don't have the full list of all the teams that are going to be in that, but it's a really, it's a tough, challenge of teams that are going to be in that. So that'll be a fun tournament to be in. No matter who we get matched up with, should be some good, exciting basketball. Obviously that we've got a lot of schedule unknown, but that's going to be, a good way to, to start the season there. And, hopefully our team is up and ready for it.
And that concludes this week's episode of the Red Tower Wrap Up. Moff, back to you.
Yeah, fitting that we ended with basketball, talking about the Battle for Atlantis, because we are going to be talking about basketball and the transfer portal. And as I like to say, the portal giveth, the portal taketh away. And WKU basketball has definitely gotten a feel of that since the season has ended. We have had several of our players that have hit the transfer portal. They've all just entered their name. No one has committed to another school or program yet as we are recording, again, Sunday night, the 13th. But the players that are currently in the transfer portal, in no particular order, we got Braxton Bayless, Don McHenry, Babacar Faye, Flu Jun, Julius Thetford, Enoch Kalambe, and Tyrone Marshall Jr. That's a lot of production, that's in the transfer portal. And just a reminder, I send it out, every time the portal opens, and players enter. Just because they enter doesn't mean they're gone. Any of those players could come back. Just looking across the landscape of college basketball and college football, every year the numbers and the percentages of players that are hitting the portal is just increasing and increasing and increasing. This is the new normal, just across all of our sports, across our level, the G5. These guys are going to put their name in the portal and just see what their market value is. Don McHenry's been getting looked at by USC over at Southern in California. I believe he's taking a visit there. Julius Stedford's being recruited by Memphis, and they obviously have a lot of FedEx money there. So, it's only right that these guys, just in today's era of NIL and transfer portal, obviously we'd love to have any and all those guys back. They're all good players. They all helped and contributed to our teams over the last several seasons. But, I think they would be doing a disservice to themselves if they didn't put their name out there and see, what options they have out there, because this is a short period of their life where, they may not go pro, but they can go somewhere and make some money right now and help themselves out or their families out, and continue playing basketball. So, Tyler, what are your thoughts about the 7 guys that are currently in the portal?
I hate to see some of them go, like Bayless and McHenry, Thedford, Cline Bay, Marshall, and Fay, and I guess I hate to see them all go, and Falou, but it is understandable. Yes, they need to go and try to better themselves, but I mean, it is what it is. Today's world is different than the one that we grew up in. And if Julius Thedford wants some of that barbecue money down there in Memphis, I can't. I don't want him to go, but I could. I guess I could see the appeal of it. But it just sucks that you're sitting there one day, you're cheering for him, and then next thing they put their name in transfer portal. I think that's the reason why. I guess I hesitate to buy some of the NIL shirts and stuff, because you don't know. It's just like with the pros. I don't buy jerseys or anything from them because I don't know if they're going to be there the next year. It could change from year to year. So I wish there was some kind of stability, or I don't want to say contract signed by the players, but just some kind of stability there where, hey, you knew the dudes was coming back the next year. But that's just my 2 cents. It ain't worth much, but I hope all of them make the smart and best decision for themselves. And if that's coming back, I'm going to support them. If they leave, I'm still going to watch them, still going to support them.
Yeah, we're pretty known for being, pro transfer portal for, any sport, any football, basketball, we mainly talk about. But, those guys, all have the right to go out there and shop and see what their best decision for them is. And quite frankly, they, except for Julius, who signed here as a freshman last year, they're all transfers in. So, we can't be mad about the transfer portal, lending itself to players leaving, when we benefit so often from players coming in and being great players here. We've talked about that in football. Same in basketball. That door has to go both ways. And, maybe some of these guys come back. I don't know. No one has been announced as gone. But obviously we'll update any of those as it becomes relevant, either on social media or here as our next recording comes or whenever it's relevant. The players on the roster who have exhausted their eligibility and will not be coming back definitely next year. You got Tyler Fluff Olden, Jalen Jackson, and Christian Lander. Obviously Fluff has been around. He's the walk-on legend, always coming in, knocking down corner threes. Jalen Jackson been here, came here with Steve Lutz a couple years ago. Had some injuries earlier in his career. But, when he was healthy and you got to see his full complement of playing, he was a tenacious defender, a real fun one to watch. And then Christian Lander, everybody knows his story, friend of the podcast. He came over, transferred from Indiana. His dad played football here, former 5-star recruit, Christian himself, and just came here and was just a really good player, really good shooter, really good defender, fun to watch. Never got any kind of trouble off the court or anything, just a really, really solid player here. And all three of those guys, obviously we're going to miss not being around and not being on the court this next year. And then looking at the guys who currently are returning to the basketball team, or at least are not in the portal, I guess, you have to look at that one way or the other. They're not in the portal yet. This could change. By the time we uploaded it, it could be different. But as of right now, as of this recording, we've got Blaze Keita, Cade Unsold, Cade Stinnett, Terrion Murdix, Jack Edelin, Leroy Odiahi, and Jalen Dorsey and Tegan Moore. Those guys are still, on the roster. They still have not entered the transfer portal. So the assumption is being made right now that those guys are planning to return and play for WKU in the 25-26 season. Again, that could change. We don't know what those plans may be. If that does change, obviously we'll just update that if it does change. But Tyler, what are your thoughts on the guys who have exhausted eligibility and these guys returning?
Well, I never will forget whenever Fluff came in, and he'd always get in that corner and shoot it. He hit it, and the crowd go absolutely wild. If we was up a lot or we was down a lot, kind of like when we was playing Liberty at home there at the end of the season. He went in there and shot 3, went in, the place erupted. It was great. I know that those times were the moments that he lived for. Just a great team player. It seemed like he was always happy, always had a smile on his face. And Jalen Jackson, it was great watching him get to play because you could tell he went out there and played his heart out. Even though he was violated by that guy from La Tech, but it is that's in the past. Ugh, that's disgusting. But I really enjoyed watching Jalen play this last season. Christian Lander, it was awesome. I remember whenever the news broke that he committed here. I was excited because we got someone from a P5 school. And he grew up in Evansville. And it was awesome then to learn that his dad played football down here, and he was kind of continuing on that Hilltopper legacy. Looking at the players who are returning currently, or at least not in the portal. I mean, Murdix, I've never watched. He's been here. This is his second year, and he's still never seen a minute. I'm excited to see what he will bring. Jack Edelin, Jalen Dorsey, Tegan Moore, Blaze. We all know what they can do. I was kind of disheartened whenever Tegan had to sit out. I understand why he did and redshirt this past season, but I think it's gonna be awesome whenever he can come back and play. I feel like that's gonna be a boost to the team. And then you got both the Cades, Cade Unseld. He was a legend or a local player, so I think he'll bring in that flavor. He'll bring more people from Bowling Green area whenever he does get to play this season. I know he was hurt, so I think that's only going to help. But you look at it, we got some good guards and some returning post players that have experience. So I think that's only going to be to our benefit.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy that of the guys returning, 4 of those guys never played this last year. Cade Unsold, obviously recovering from injury. Cade Stinnett transferred over and he redshirted. He was able to play, but they just chose to redshirt him for whatever reason. Terrion Murdix, you mentioned, he came over with Steve Lutz from Texas A&M Corpus Christi. He was coming off an injury at the end of the 23 season and then re-injured that kind of late into Steve Lutz's only year here, re-injured that, so missed all of this last season as well. But I think people forget, man, he was a Southland Conference Defensive Player of the Year the last year he played. Really, really good guard, really obviously good defensively, good point guard. If he gets back to healthy, which I think we're expecting him to stick around and be that guy next year. Obviously a couple ACL injuries. Take caution. Don't rush him back. Let him recuperate, rehab, and strengthen that knee. Um, but he's young enough that I think he's going to be fine. There's plenty of players across sports, baseball, basketball, football that come back from ACLs and still are really productive players. And I'm sure he's working and grinding. I can't wait to see him back. Same with Jack. Can't wait to see him, Blaze and Leroy. Both of those guys were kind of thrust into a bigger spotlight and bigger role this past year when Baba went down with injury, and I really enjoyed seeing their growth and development over the season. And them coming back, at least what you're getting from them. Jalen Dorsey, I did put an asterisk beside him as I have kept up with the roster tracker, this offseason. Initially, I had him on the not returning exhausted eligibility list because he was listed as a senior. He participated in senior night, but he messaged me and informed me that he had one more year of eligibility and he wasn't sure if he was going to use it. So I have moved him down to returning / not in the portal until that is otherwise noted that he's not returning once he makes that decision. Obviously, we'll be here cheering for him either way. And then, the biggest piece coming back, I think without argument by both of us is Tegan Moore. I mean, he was, all conference freshman team 2 years ago, made this decision last year, to recover and rehab from that hip injury and surgery that he had. I'm really glad that he prioritized his health and what was best for him in the long run, rather than trying to rush back, potentially re-injuring that and making it worse for himself and his physical health, and just not being the player that he knows he's capable of being. I think the best decision for him was to take the year off. Obviously, we would have loved to see him on the court, but now he's got to see the game from a different angle, kind of be a coach and cheerleader supporter of the team. And obviously, we can't wait to have him back out there this next season. Let's talk about some of the new faces that are confirmed will be on the 25-26 roster. And let's start first with the high school signees. Obviously, we have announced when they committed and when they have signed here. But the first one is Armello Boone. He is from Woodford County here in Kentucky. He is a 3-star prospect via 247 Sports. He was the number 4 player in Kentucky for the class of 2025. He is a 6'4" shooting guard. He averaged 18.1 points per game this past season. He shot 42.4% from the field, and he averaged 6.1 rebounds per game. And just over the course of the last year since he committed, we've shared quite a bit of just videos of him playing AAU ball or high school ball, and he's a really good and aggressive and athletic player. Really kind of reminds me of that Julius Thetford mode almost. I almost expect he'll come in and be an instant contributor. He might not be 10 to 12 points per game, that kind of contributor like Julius was. Julius was kind of a second, third option almost immediately offensively. But I think Armello Boone is going to come in and immediately be an impactful player and a contributor to this team. I really like his upside. I like that we're recruiting Kentucky players. And then our second high school signee that we have coming in this next season is Lawson Rice. He's also a Kentucky kid. He's from Butler County, right up the road from Warren County here. He is a 6'6" forward. He missed his senior year with an injury. He was offered and signed after impressing coaches last summer at a team camp here at Western at Diddle. I remember there was a pretty viral clip of him getting a block and deflection on one end and then going coast to coast and dunking it on the other end on the main floor in Diddle. Offered him pretty soon after that, and got a signature on the dotted line for his commitment not long after that. So obviously we hate that he dealt with an injury. I think he had an ACL injury. that he was part of a really good Butler County team, um, that with Ty Price, that a 4-star guard that went to the Sweet 16, for the Kentucky State tournament last year. They didn't quite make it back to it this year, but he's a really exciting player. He's really athletic. He's long. I think he has some room to bulk up and get stronger. Obviously, comes straight out of high school. Most kids need to get a little bit stronger and bulk up for the college game. But just what we saw when he was healthy, from his high school clips, man, he's going to be a really good and impactful player. I don't want to say it's going to be this year. You don't want to rush him back with that ACL injury. You want him to heal up and be ready to play. So I don't know if it'll be this upcoming season, but I am excited for kind of what both of those guys are going to bring to this team. Tyler, what are your thoughts on the two high school signees?
I mean, I'm thrilled to death that we're getting some Kentucky players in here. If we could start, if Hank could do what Stansbury did by getting the Mr. Kentucky basketball guys down here, I think that'd be awesome. But I think with Armello Boone, I mean, he's a number 4 player in Kentucky. If he can play some stingy defense, I believe his offensive game will come to him. Seems like he's grabbing rebounds, which is something that we needed this last offseason. I think he's only going to add 2 to the program whenever he comes in. Lawson Rice. I worked with some people from Butler County, and I asked them about him last year whenever they went to the state championship, and they said he's a great player. And I feel like both of them. I feel like when you get them 2 in, I feel like that's really going to make our offense buzz, at least offense, defense, and hopefully they can come in. Maybe not this year, like I said, maybe not this year with Lawson, but maybe in the years to come, definitely on the rebounding end. I'm thrilled to death with getting Armello and Lawson in here though.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier with Cade Unsold, that local Bowling Green flavor that he's going to add, and going to have a lot of friends and family coming to watch him in games. Same for Lawson Rice. I mean, if anyone remembers when Butler County was making that Kentucky High School Sweet 16 run, their district tournament was at the Owensboro Sports Center. Man, they were packing that thing out with just blue Butler County Bears everywhere. Same, in Lexington for the state tournament. They have a good following of fans that support their basketball team. So really excited. Obviously, some of those people are going to come and support Lawson when he's wearing red here at WKU. So really excited for what all these guys are going to bring to the team, including Armello, and just the athleticism and just the ceiling that they have. I really trust Coach Plona and his ability to find and recognize and develop talent. So I'm excited for both of those guys to join the team next year. And then earlier I mentioned, the portal giveth, the portal taketh away. Well, we talked about the guys that have been taketh away so far. They've entered the portal. Like we said, they haven't left yet. They could come back, but in the meantime, the staff has been out recruiting and trying to fill holes, because we do know we have at least 3 guys that have exhausted their eligibility that will not be returning. So we have roster spots we have to fill, and so far we have signed 3 players from the transfer portal. The first one being Cam Hafner. He is a junior transfer from the Evansville Purple Aces. He is a 6'2" guard. He averaged 12.7 points per game, 3.6 rebounds per game, and 1.4 assists per game. For his career, over 3 seasons, he's shooting 37.2% from 3. And he also spent his first season in college basketball at Eastern Illinois, where he was named the Ohio Valley Conference Freshman of the Year in 2022-23. He played 20 games this past season, where he suffered a wrist injury on January 22nd and missed the rest of the season. We're not expecting any issues from that. Obviously, should be healed up and ready to go, especially by October, November, when ball season comes around. But he did play all 40 minutes of the game that we played there in Evansville on December 7th. He played 40 minutes. He ended the game with 19 points, including shooting 3 of 9 from 3-point range. And if you just remember him from that game, if you go back and watch the reruns, he's exciting. He is athletic. He can shoot the ball. He can fill it up. And just going back and watching other clips of him from the past couple years, man, he is a good addition. Coach Plona talked about want to, improve the shooting that we have on our roster, and 37.2% from three. That's a good place to start. A good, exciting, athletic guard that, if you leave him open, he can shoot, and he can also get to the paint and isn't afraid to draw some contact and be a little aggressive. So, really excited for Cam and what he's going to bring to this team. Tyler, what are your thoughts on this first portal signee?
Yeah, so I didn't get to watch the Evansville game. I did get to listen to it though, and I think it's a great get. As you said, he had 19 points versus us on 3 of 9 shooting from three, and it's incredible that it's great to get a guard in here that has some experience playing the G5, playing a little bit higher, playing against some teams anyway. But then when you throw in the Ohio Valley Conference Freshman of the Year, even though that was a few years ago, I mean that's still real impressive, and I think he's definitely going to fill one of the slots. If one of the guards does end up leaving, that's in the portal, not coming back, I definitely feel like he's going to add to the shooting capability that sometimes we lack this past season.
Yeah, and then our second signee from the transfer portal is Louis Simona. He is a sophomore transfer from Stonehill College. He is a 6'8" forward. He averaged 13.2 points per game, 4.1 rebounds per game, and 1.5 assists per game. He shot 37.5% from three this last year. He appeared in 32 games and had a season high of 33 points this last year. So again, this is another player that can stretch the floor, a really good shooter. I think Coach Plona and staff have definitely emphasized, like, we want to find some shooters. I think we all know that at times that was streaky or hit or miss this past year. And in Simona, I mean, they've really have found a guy, at 6'8" that can score at all three levels. He can get to the basket. He can hit the mid range, or he can step all the way out and shoot the three as well. 37.5% from three. Anybody will take that all day long. Obviously he'll be, stepping up in competition. But I think, the fact that he's going to be surrounded by several other good players, when you talk about Cam, Teagan, and just, the other players we're going to have on the court. It's not like we're not going to lean on him or Cam, to be, the all, do everything. They'll score a bucket every time. We saw the way Coach Plona likes to play. He likes to play fast, good ball movement, find open shooters. We just have to find some guys that can make those shots. We don't need shooters, we need makers. And I think what we found in Cam and Louis here, these first two signees, is exactly what we need, and the type of players that can get up and down the court and add to our roster next year. Tyler, what's your thoughts on Louis?
I think he's going to be a Mick. He's going to create havoc for opposing teams because he is 6'8", and he will step out and shoot a three. And most post players, whenever they come out there, they'll whenever their guy gets the ball, they'll maybe come out to free throw line extended, maybe just a little bit more, but they're not out there trying to play defense on them guys. And I feel like if he can stroke it from deep, go for it. He's shooting 37.5%. Yes, the competition will get a little bit tougher, but I feel like he was the leading scorer for his team. And that kind of talent just don't drop off whenever you take a step up. It may decline just a little bit, but it don't drop off severely. As we've seen with other people coming in from smaller schools, smaller conferences. I feel like he may not be the all-star, but I feel like he's definitely going to be a big part of this next year's team.
Yeah, and then our third commitment from the transfer portal comes to us by the name of Bryant Celebang. I could be wrong on that pronunciation. Hopefully I'll be corrected in the future if that was wrong. But Bryant Celebang, he is a junior transfer from McNeese State. He is 6'8", 225 pounds. He is a forward. Could play probably the 4 or the 5 at that size. He averaged 3.7 points per game, 4.3 rebounds per game, and he shoots 63.6% from the field in 15 minutes per game last season. He did appear in 35 games. Before playing at McNeese, he previously played at Arizona State and Tulsa. When he was at Tulsa as a true freshman, he played in 31 minutes per game. He averaged 12 points per game and 9 rebounds per game. He is a career 60.9% field goal shooter. He does not shoot threes. I think that's one thing when you look at his stats, and that's the first thing anybody and everybody does when we sign a player. They're going to go look ESPN and check those stats. When you look at his stats, they're not going to jump off the page at you. They're not going to blow you away and be like, okay, this guy's going to come in and give you double-digit points. But when you dig a little deeper into what he's doing, this guy is a hard hat, dirty work, going to get rebounds, going to get offensive rebounds and put them back in. He shoots 60% for his career. That's really good. From a team that sometimes struggled to shoot 40% this last year, having a guy that can do the dirty work, clean up misses, help us with defensive rebounding. Everywhere he's been one of the top rebounders in his conference. If you look at that by per 40 basis, he's just really efficient. He really reminds me of a Carl Kamene type player. If you remember him from the Ray Harper days, I know that's been a while. But a guy that's not out there looking to get his shot, does not shoot 3-pointers, which is kind of a unicorn in today's era of basketball. Everybody wants to be Steph Curry and step out there and shoot threes. This guy, he knows his role. He's battling and fighting for rebounds. He comes with energy every single day. He's played on some really good teams. That McNeese State team they played for with Will Wade, that was a really good team. Will Wade had a lot of talent on that team. For him to be a contributor, even at 15 minutes per game, was still 4 points per game, 4 rebounds per game. He's just efficient. He's somebody that's going to come in and do the dirty work and help us win ball games. Help us get extra possessions and clean up misses and get easy baskets. And every player doesn't have to be a 12 to 15 points per game player. You need role players. You need those gritty, grinding type players. And I think this is one that is exactly that, one that the signing doesn't look sexy, but when you start to dive into what he can do and watch his film and just the energy he plays with, man, I am a really, really big fan of this signing. Tyler, what about you?
All right, so yeah, I'm with you. Whenever I was looked at his stats, yes, none of them really stand out. I mean, he had a great first year at Tulsa. He averaged 12 points a game, 9 rebounds, shooting 50% from the free throw, field goal 61.5%. But then you look down at his double doubles. He had 11 double doubles during the lone season at Tulsa. And then and that's his freshman year. And then you look at what he was given, at Arizona State and McNeese. Both those teams may not have needed him to be that type of player. But if he can come in and if he can be a rebounding machine and he can get them garbage points, just be the type of, as you said, hard hat, pack his lunch, go to work type player. I feel like that's something we desperately needed this last season. I feel like that's desperately going to help us out in the future. And if he can give us 11 double doubles or 8 double doubles or more, I'm only going to be more thrilled with the signing of this kid. But I am looking forward to him getting on the hardwood for WKU.
Yeah, so as we stand right now, currently, that's all the additions and subtractions we officially have to the roster. Now, like we've said, that will change. Within the next week or two, I'm sure. By May, when graduation and school's out, there's going to be more movement on the roster, without a doubt. As it currently stands, we have 13 players on our roster that will return for next year. Will play for us, either signed or returning, or from the portal. 13 players. new NCAA rules allow your roster to have 15 players maximum. That's all you can have. So currently, we have at least space for 2 more guys to be added and signed to the roster, and that's if no one else leaves. Obviously, I'm not the type to worry about scholarships and numbers, etc., because that stuff always works its stuff out. I trust Coach Plona and staff to identify the needs, that we have, that the weak spots we need to improve on. As far as the 7 guys in the transfer portal, um, I don't think any of us know if any of those guys will return. I've had a few people ask me on social media message boards, and my answer has been I don't have any inside info on that, but in my opinion, I just doubt if any of them do return, and for various reasons, just opportunities elsewhere, whatever. Obviously, I'd love to see a couple of them return. Braxton Bayless is one that I could most likely see returning. If I had to pick one of that bunch, I think he could be a good candidate to return. I think Don is obviously going to get a lot of attention, and already has. Julius is going to get a lot of attention. Babacar, we've heard of a couple of different schools recruiting him very heavily. Again, any of those guys I would love to have back. Those are contributing, impactful players. But just at this point and where we are in college basketball, I just have a hard time seeing. I don't want to say any of them, but I just don't see anyone returning at this moment, except maybe Braxton Bayless. I could be wrong. Obviously, we'll update that as it's relevant. I think as the roster currently stands, I think it's safe to say that our biggest needs left on the roster is finding a true, traditional big man, a center, a guy that's 6'9", 6'10 plus, and can bang down low. Obviously, we know we've got Leroy and Blaze, but they have their own limitations, whether it be health or just scoring around the basket. It's always nice to have that that Babacar type player that can go get you a bucket down lower. A couple years ago, Rodney Howard was a solid contributor. And then I would say having an established point guard. Obviously losing Christian Lander and Jalen Jackson. Those were 2 primary ball handlers for us. Don potentially being gone, that was another primary ball handler. That leaves us, Jack and Terrion are kind of our, lead ball handlers right now. I'm sure Cam can also, provide some of those duties as well. But, it'd be nice to have another option there as a primary ball handler, whether there's foul trouble or injuries, or, just to have that rotation of players. Guys aren't generally going to play all 40 minutes. So I think currently, as the roster stands, I think it's safe to say that our biggest needs are a big man and a point guard. And then we talked about it earlier, just looking at some of these guys returning from injury, talking about Tegan Moore, Kate Unsold, Terrion Murdix, these guys that are returning from injury. It's hard to know what to expect from them. I think Tegan, I think he's the most likely to, just return to that. He's going to be an all conference type player, probably in our starting lineup next year. I think it's going to be hard to keep him out of our starting lineup and be an impactful, 15 point per game type player, and probably going to give us 5-6 rebounds a game. He's just a tough player. Cade obviously hasn't had any time playing college basketball just yet. Not sure what to expect from him, but obviously we hope he heals up and is ready to go. And same with Terrion. We know his ceiling. Tough defender, good point guard, can go score and get a bucket, great shooter. We just need him to be healthy and come back and ready to contribute. We saw too many injuries this last year to, want to rush any of those guys back. But Tyler, what are your thoughts on, just some of those roster needs or questions that we might have going into the off season?
Yeah, along with everybody else, I feel like we definitely need shooters and we definitely need rebounders. If we are just left with Jack and Terrion, I would like to see a few more guards come in, which I'm glad to see Cam's already committed to us. And he's adding the shooters, Cam and Louis. I mean, but both those guys are shooters from their schools that they came from. I'm only expecting them to get better whenever they get here. Maybe keep Tyler Oden around on staff as 3-point specialist. It could work, and I'm sure he would love it. But I feel like the coaches ain't deaf. The coaches hear what people are saying. Coaches know what needs to be got. In the fact of if anyone returns, I don't know. In today's world, man, with so much money floating around, some of these other schools having boosters. I could see. I'm like you. I could see almost all of them going somewhere. But I feel like Colombe could come back, possibly. He is a Coach Hank kid. He's always played for him. I just feel like that could be that type of connection right there is going to be hard to sever. And Braxton, I could see him definitely coming back. But the rest of them, it's a shot in the dark. I don't think Flujun's coming back at all. I'd probably put money on that one. And the rest of them, I could see them getting flirted with some schools with some bigger money. But I feel like we definitely need bigs and guards and some shooters, which he's already got, but definitely bigs and guards, kind of like what you said. And the injuries, I think Teagan, I'm like you. Teagan's going to come back and return to what he was. He's just a great player. Cade, I could see him in maybe a year getting used to the system, coming in and being a great player. I just feel like he played his senior year, had to sit out. He has been around the college game. He's seen what the practices are like. I don't know if he ever got to participate in practice. Probably doubt it with his injury. But he's seen what it takes to be a great player. So hopefully he's learned from that and he takes his time to come back, study the game, and really adds to. And Terrion, I mean, with being the conference player of the year, his last year he was playing. I'm hoping that he comes in, he picks right back up where he left. Hopefully he's worked on his shot some. But I think those are big questions. I can't answer them, but I can only hope what they can do, and I hope they all come in and play great.
Yeah, that is our transfer portal update for the men's side. I do want to touch on the women's side real quick. Not as much news over there as far as not 7 players like on the men's side, but we have had 3 lady toppers that have entered the transfer portal. Josie Gilvin has entered, then Acacia Hayes and Mackenzie Chatfield. All 3 of those have entered since the transfer portal has opened. And then just this last week, Josie Gilvin signed to go play at the University of Kentucky. So she will be wearing that blue color playing up in Lexington. Obviously Josie was a really good and impactful player for us this past year, really came on strong at the end of the year. We would have loved to have her back. Obviously, she was a really good player, and she's going to do really good things up there in Lexington. We will keep up. We will follow and support her, even if she's wearing that blue. I'll still cheer and hope that she, has a good season up there, and just develops into a good player. Because quite frankly, in today's day and age, who knows? Maybe she goes up there and doesn't like it. And who knows? Maybe she boomerangs back to Western. It's not unheard of. Just like we were talking earlier about signing those Mr. Kentucky basketballs. I don't think we didn't sign any of them straight out of high school. They would go somewhere else and then transfer to Western when we had 4 of them on the roster at one point. So, I think relationships and just keeping those doors open and just knowing that the transfer portal is going to work both ways. Then obviously Acacia Hayes and Mackenzie Chatfield, again, both good players that were impactful and contributed to the women's basketball team's success and improvement this last year. obviously we'll be keeping up with them and whatever decision they make for their future, and obviously cheering them on and supporting them wherever they decide to go. Tyler, what are your thoughts on the Lady Toppers?
Oh, it's going to be hard to cheer for Josie when she's wearing blue, but I reckon I can do it. And Hayes and Mackenzie Chatfield, I hope they have the best. If they do decide to go somewhere, I hope they pick the spot that's best for them, and where they can make the most impact and improve themselves as players and potentially uh, further their career into the WNBA or some of their some of the other teams that, if they don't make it there, can at least play somewhere else. Because if that's if their dream is to continue to play, which I'm sure it probably is, I hope the best for them and hope that they get to fulfill that dream.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, once a hilltopper, always a hilltopper. It's men's or women's side, football, basketball, any sport across the hill. But just can't help it. I'm gonna keep up and support those hilltoppers wherever they go. But that's it. That wraps up our transfer portal update. Obviously, there's we're still early in the process as far as what could happen. There's still been, even this last week, there's still been some coaching changes, which is going to lead to players entering the portal, and then there's going to be another window that the portal opens, and until basically until August gets here, second week of August, when school's coming back in for next semester. That's when we'll kind of know what we have finalized for our roster for both the men's and women's team. By then we should have a schedule for both as well. But as these transfer updates become relevant, as we have any new signings or any new portal entries exiting, we will update those on social media and or talk about them on our next recording of the podcast. But man, I'm really glad we got back in the saddle. Both of us had had some travels come up the last few weeks and just took a couple weeks off. It'd been a while since we've been in front of the microphone, but glad we got back. Just a lot had gone on across WKU, and especially the transfer portal, and now the football transfer portal opens back up in just a couple of days. So I'm sure there will be movement on the football side, and we'll talk about that as well here within the next couple of weeks, I'm sure, and kind of update what's going on there. The baseball and softball seasons are winding down, tennis and golf winding down, cross country, track, etc. Just a lot of spring sports kind of coming nearer to a close, and obviously we'll continue to keep up with all those and update those happenings as they occur and become relevant. But man, glad to be back. 2 years is crazy. I still can't believe it. As we were approaching this recording, and I realized that it was the 14th when it would be out. I was just like, man, it's crazy that it's been 2 years, and I just can't. Like you said earlier, I can't really hardly put into words just how much has gone into it from both of us. And like you said, you've had a lot of changes. You done had a baby, and got dang near a 1-year-old over there now in these 2 years that we've been recording. And this is not a small task to do this on a weekly basis. And sometimes us recording 2 times a week, it's a lot to do. It's a part-time job, while both of us have full-time jobs and wives and kids and just lives in general. It's busy time all the time. But I'm glad that we get to do this and have been doing it now for 2 years, and have really just become a trusted source of WKU news and information, game previews, game recaps, roster overviews, whatever it may be. A lot of people depend on us and trust us for that information. So I'm really looking forward to continuing this for as long as we may be able to do it. I will say that much. Tyler, hit us with your final words and take us on the heck out of here.
I tell you, this is a fun part-time job, though, because I get to talk sports, I get to talk hilltopper sports, and I get to maybe indulge in some adult beverages every once in a while. So, that right there just makes it all worth it. But to see see how the program's changing, this past week I was on the road a crap ton. So I was really hardly on Twitter to get to see how the programs was doing. I was keeping up with softball because my wife is loves softball, so I get to watch them games, which is awesome. But man, I was kind of out of the loop. But I'm glad I got to come through and and every week getting to do the Red Tail wrap up and highlight the different teams, different players that maybe go under the radar for most sports fans, and just highlight them and their accomplishments. I mean, that's something that I always enjoy getting to do. But yeah, 2 years. I mean, it's crazy, ain't it? And I said this at the I think the first episode, and definitely at the 100th episode, that I never thought I'd be in this position. Just listening to the different podcasts and then actually getting to be the co-host of one. That's something I never thought I'd be able to do in my life. But it is cool to, as I said earlier, get to see people come up to us and acknowledge that, hey, we listen to you. We appreciate what y'all doing. I just want to say thank you to the fans for giving us the ability to do this. Because without y'all, I mean, we just be talking to nobody. So seriously, thank y'all so much. It means a lot to me. It means the world to me. And Moff, I know it means. I mean, I know it means a lot to you. You've been doing this a lot longer than I have. I mean, you cut your teeth on the Moonshine Throwdown podcast, which I used to listen to. And it's just awesome getting to meet people, getting to make friends from other schools. I mean, it's just a blast. But everyone go out, support the baseball team, softball team. They need it. They need the support. They need the home crowds to be there and support them, and they really appreciate it. Golf, if you get a chance to go out and watch a golf tournament, do it. It's awesome. And tennis, all them players, they want to know that they're being supported by fans. It just makes it all worth it. So with that, I'll say, Moff, who has it better than us, dog?
Nobody, buddy. You know it.
Go Tops.
Go Tops. Later, guys.
See you.